I am prepared to die. I have been a religious woman, and I know that I am going to my God. These poignant words are believed to be the final statements of Mary Surratt, the first woman to be executed by the U.S. government. But how did her life come to this tragic end? Welcome to the Crime Lens, where we delve into the darkest and most compelling chapters of criminal history. In today's episode, we explore a sobering and poignant aspect of justice: the execution of women who made headlines for their heinous crimes. Mary Surratt's story is inextricably linked with the turbulent times of the American Civil War. The Surratt family, known for their Southern sympathies, supported the Confederate cause, a fact that would lead to their dramatic downfall. Mary's boarding house in Surrattsville, Maryland, was more than just a family business. It became a meeting place for key figures in the conspiracy to assassinate President Abraham Lincoln. Her son, John Surratt, and his associates were deeply involved in the plot. Among the conspirators were John Wilkes Booth, the man who assassinated Lincoln, and his accomplices, Lewis Powell and George Atzerodt. These men, driven by a radical agenda, sought to destabilize the Union government and support the Confederate cause through violence. The conspiracy unraveled quickly after Lincoln's assassination. On April 14, 1865, the authorities, determined to bring those responsible to justice, arrested Mary Surratt on April 17, 1865. The arrest was part of a broader crackdown on suspected conspirators. Mary Surratt, along with several others, was tried by a military tribunal, a controversial decision that faced criticism for its lack of traditional judicial processes. The tribunal was established to address threats to national security, and the proceedings were swift. On July 5, 1865, Mary Surratt was found guilty of conspiracy. Alongside her, Lewis Powell, David Herold, and George Atzerodt were also convicted. The execution of these four conspirators took place on July 7, 1865, at the Old Arsenal Penitentiary in Washington, D.C. Mary Surratt's execution by hanging was a somber and historic moment. She was the first woman to be executed by the U.S. government. Her death was a stark reminder of the fierce and tragic consequences of the Civil War and the severe measures taken in its aftermath. Mary Surratt's life and death remain subjects of intense historical debate. Her involvement in the assassination conspiracy, her trial, and her execution highlight the complex and often harsh justice of the Reconstruction era. The echoes of her story continue to resonate in discussions about justice and historical memory. Ruth Snyder, a figure whose life, crimes, and execution captured the nation's attention in the early 20th century. Her story is one of crime, betrayal, and a dramatic end. Ruth Snyder, born in 1895, lived at a period of social and economic upheaval in America. Her life took a dark turn that would lead her to become central in one of the most notorious criminal cases of her time. Ruth Snyder was a housewife living in New York City with her husband, Albert Snyder. Her life seemed ordinary until it was marred by a shocking crime that would lead to her notoriety. In 1927, Ruth Snyder was involved in a heinous crime that stunned the nation. She, along with her lover, Judd Gray, orchestrated the murder of her husband, Albert Snyder. Ruth Snyder and Judd Gray meticulously planned the murder of Albert Snyder. The crime involved a brutal assault on Albert, who was strangled with a piece of wire. The motive was financial. Ruth and Gray were looking to benefit from Albert's life insurance policies. The investigation into Albert Snyder's murder led to the arrest of Ruth Snyder and Judd Gray. The trial was highly publicized, with Ruth's testimony and the details of the crime captivating the public and media. Accomplices. Judd Gray. Gray was Ruth Snyder's lover and co-conspirator in the murder. He played a crucial role in the planning and execution of the crime. Catherine, Judd Gray's wife, became a key witness during the investigation. shedding light on the couple's relationship and motives. Ruth Snyder and Judd Gray were found guilty of murder. The trial was sensationalized by the media, and their case became a national spectacle. Ruth Snyder was executed on January 12, 1928, at Sing Sing Prison in New York. Her execution by the electric chair was highly publicized and marked a grim conclusion to her criminal activities. The electric chair was the method of execution used for Snyder, reflecting the period's approach to capital punishment. Her execution was notable for its dramatic and public nature, and it became a significant moment in the history of American criminal justice. The story of Ruth Snyder is a stark reminder of the severe consequences of crime and the justice system's response to such acts. Her life, crimes, and execution highlight the complexities of human nature and the impact of sensationalized media on legal proceedings. Catherine Monvoisin, a notorious figure from 17th-century France whose life and crime shocked the nation. Her story is one of witchcraft, scandal, and grim justice. Catherine Monvoisin, better known as La Voisin, was a central figure in one of the most infamous scandals of her time. Born in 1640, Monvoisin lived during an era when superstition and accusations of witchcraft were rampant. Her story intertwines with the dark and tumultuous history of France. Monvoisin was a fortune-teller and a reputed sorceress. She gained notoriety for her involvement in the affair of the poisons, a major scandal that implicated many prominent figures in the French court, including members of the nobility. The affair of the poisons was a sprawling scandal involving accusations of murder, poisonings, and witchcraft. Catherine Monvoisin was at the heart of this scandal, accused of providing poisons and magical services to members of the French elite. Monvoisin was alleged to have been involved in several heinous crimes, including the sale of poison to those wishing to eliminate rivals or family members. She also faced accusations of conducting black masses and engaging in sorcery, which were believed to have caused harm and death to numerous individuals. The investigation into the affair of the poisons led to the arrest of Catherine Monvoisin in 1679. Her trial was part of a broader crackdown on witchcraft and poisonings that shocked the French public. Monvoisin's trial was characterized by intense interrogation and sensational revelations. Trial outcome: Catherine Monvoisin was found guilty of multiple charges, including poisoning, witchcraft, and involvement in the deaths of several individuals. The trial exposed the dark underbelly of French aristocracy and the widespread fear of witchcraft. On February 22, 1680, Catherine Monvoisin was executed by strangulation and then burned at the stake, a common method of execution for those accused of witchcraft in France. Her execution was a dramatic conclusion to a scandal that had gripped the nation. The choice of execution reflected the period's harsh approach to dealing with crimes associated with witchcraft and sorcery. The burning at the stake was intended as both a punishment and a deterrent. The story of Catherine Monvoisin is a dark and tragic chapter in French history.